Okay, so AI, right?
It's everywhere you look these days, isn't it?
It's like every time you turn around, there's a new headline about it.
And the big question everyone seems to be asking,
The one that's on everyone's mind.
is it coming for our jobs?
Which, fair enough, it's a valid concern. But today we're going to try to separate the hype from the reality.
We're going to equip you with the knowledge you need to navigate this whole AI revolution. Because let's be real, it's not going away.
And we've got some really interesting sources to help us unpack all of this.
Oh yeah, we've been digging deep for this one.
Like we always do, but this topic, it feels especially relevant right now, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So we've got a recent article, just came out in August actually, called Will AI Replace Jobs? It's a really interesting read.
It really does give a good snapshot of what's happening right now with AI across a ton of different professions, which I think is really important.
Because it's not some far-off thing anymore. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
And this article, it doesn't sugarcoat it either. One of the first things they point out is that in May of 2023 alone, almost 4,000 jobs were cut because of AI.
4,000?
Yep, just like that.
Wow, okay. That really highlights why we need to be talking about this. And it's not just those like stereotypical repetitive jobs.
Right. It's not just factory workers or data entry clerks. This article suggests that AI is coming for creative fields too, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, that's where it really gets interesting. So how do you even begin to teach a machine creativity?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's where our second source comes in. Informatics in the Round, a podcast that's been doing some really fascinating episodes on AI. There's one in particular that I think you'll find really relevant. It's all about this researcher, Desmond Upton Patton, who's using AI to actually analyze different forms of creative expression, including music.
AI and music. Now that's something I never really thought about before.
It's pretty wild. Imagine feeding an AI system a massive database of music, like every genre, every style you can think of. And then the AI analyzes all of it, figuring out the patterns, the structures, like what makes music, well, music.
So it's like AI is going to music school, but like on a super, super powered level.
Exactly. And this isn't just some theoretical thing either. Remember that story about Paul McCartney using AI to recreate John Lennon's voice for a new Beatles song?
Wait, seriously? AI can do that now?
Yep. Pretty wild, right?
That's both amazing and a little creepy. Like, what does that even mean for authenticity in music? Can we even, are we heading towards a world where artists are releasing new tracks decades after they're gone?
It really blurs the lines, doesn't it? It makes you question what originality even means in the age of AI.
Oh, right. It's like if an AI can write a song, compose a symphony, even mimic the voices of our favorite singers, what does that mean for human creativity?
And maybe more importantly, what does it mean for the future of work in those creative industries?
It's definitely something to think about. But before we get too far down that rabbit hole, let's maybe zoom back out for a second and think about what this means for jobs in general. Is AI really going to steal all of our jobs?
The short answer is, it's complicated. It's not as simple as, robots replacing humans. It's much more nuanced than that.
Okay, so it's not just doom and gloom.
Exactly.
There's hope for us humans yet.
There is. Because while some jobs will definitely become automated, this change also creates space for new roles and opportunities.
Okay, so it's not just about what we stand to lose, but also what we might gain.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Throughout history, every single major technological advancement has led to shifts in the job market.
Yeah, that's true. Look at the Industrial Revolution. That completely changed the game.
Right. And it wasn't all sunshine and roses. There were definitely challenges.
For sure.
But it also created entirely new industries and job opportunities that people at the time couldn't have even imagined.
So you're saying the AI revolution is kind of like that?
Exactly. It's not just about jobs disappearing. It's about the nature of work itself changing.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So instead of asking, will AI take my job? Maybe the better question is,
how can I work with AI
to be even better at what I do?
Now you're getting it. And that's what this entire deep dive is all about, equipping you with the knowledge and the insights to not just survive, but to thrive in this new world of work.
I like the sound of that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway you hope listeners will walk away with today?
That AI is not some distant threat or some futuristic fantasy. It's here, it's now, and it's transforming our world in some really profound ways. But instead of fearing this change, I think we should embrace it. Embrace the possibilities, because within this change lies incredible potential. the potential to create, to innovate, and to shape a future that benefits all of us, not just a select few.
That is a fantastic takeaway. Embrace the change, embrace the possibilities. And you know what? If you're listening to this right now and you're feeling even just a little bit inspired, remember what we talked about earlier. Take action. Dive into those resources, explore those online courses, connect with others who are passionate about AI because the future is waiting to be written.
Who knows? You might just be the one holding the pen, or maybe the digital paintbrush, or the AI-powered microphone.
Exactly. This is The Deep Dive, signing off. Until next time, keep exploring.
Whoa, what was that? That, my friends, was Google NotebookLM's best shot at recording this very podcast. But can we do it better? On this episode of Informatics in the Round, we are talking about whether AI will come to replace certain jobs in our healthcare system and beyond. Anyway, I'm Kevin Johnson. You all know me. And after a short hiatus, it's my pleasure to reintroduce you to Harris Bland, back as co-host.
Great to be here.
Yeah, great to see you again. It's going okay. What have you been doing?
Well, I'm just staying busy, doing some emerge stuff, working on cancer research and hereditary cancer and, PhD school. Nothing big.
So is emerge something like there's a chrysalis and you crack your way through it? Is that what emerge means?
Yeah, I've emerged from the darkness. Yeah, we actually just finished returning all of our results to patients. And so now we're in analysis mode.
Oh, that's cool. We should do a podcast on that.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Maybe there's a good podcast for that.
That's possible. All right. So we have great guests today. We have the pleasure of hosting Marylyn Ritchie, who you and I both know. She is a professor of genetics and director of the Institute for Biomedical Informatics here at the University of Pennsylvania, Perelman School of Medicine. It's a lot to say. She's an expert in translational bioinformatics, and her research actually focuses on clinical data and how to use it to discover genetic architectures underlying common diseases like cancer and cardiovascular disease, the kind of stuff you're now doing now, Harris.
Yeah.
However, today, she's in her role being appointed as the Vice Dean of Artificial Intelligence and Computing, where she's actually working to develop and implement a strategy for all of the University of Pennsylvania's medical system. Her insights into how this stuff will shape healthcare should be great.
And we finally got a songwriter back on our guest panel. So Colin Frisch is an indie pop singer-songwriter who describes himself as like Ed Sheeran, but less talented and better looking.
That's
I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After graduating from University of Pennsylvania in 2023, he took on the role of creative director at the Bridge Church near Trenton, New Jersey. We were so grateful that Colin could represent the right side of the brain and comment on how AI might figure into more creative processes and industries. So it looks like it's time for us to prove that we can still make a podcast better than AI. Shall we get into it?
Okay, let's do it. Okay, hey everybody. Welcome to Informatics in the Round, the podcast designed for great kitchen table conversations about job replacement. I'm actually kind of kidding, sort of. I'm Kevin Johnson. I think everyone knows me. Let's just go around and make sure people know voices. So Harris, who are you?
I'm Harris Bland, Senior Project Manager at DBMI at Vanderbilt. And I guess I'm co-host again.
You are co-host again. Now that you've reemerged from your pre-quals for your PhD state.
Yep, exactly.
And Marylyn Ritchie, who are you?
Hi, I'm Marylyn Ritchie. I am the Vice Dean for AI and Computing at the University of Pennsylvania Perelman School of Medicine, also a professor of genetics and informatics.
And one of the most fun people in the field.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Colin, who are you?
I'm Colin. I'm the guest today. I'm a songwriter. Right now, I'm a creative director at a church in New Jersey. I was a student at the University of Pennsylvania. That's how I got connected to some of you guys. And I'm happy to be here. That's who I am.
Thank you. Hey, I've heard you have a way of describing yourself that our listeners would love to hear. How would you, they're going to see you, but how would you describe yourself?
This is my Instagram bio, and it's meant pretty seriously. I describe myself as Ed Sheeran, a little bit less talented, and a lot better looking. It seems like a great thing. That's just how I'm calling it, how I see it, right?
I see the hair similarity, and we'll have to find out about the talent. You have to share a song with us. So one of the things we do is we would love, after we've done this, for you to share a song that you've been a part of. Either, are you a singer-songwriter or only a songwriter?
Singer-songwriter, yeah. I'm the whole thing.
The full stack, as we say
That's
in
right.
informatics. Great. So we'll make sure we get a song that you think relates to this topic. So that's something for you to think about. And you can't just write it because this will be produced before then, unless you're like Ed Sheeran and are writing it right now while you're sitting here.
I can't. I'm not that good. Like I said, a little less talented.
Yeah, right. So I think the topic of the day is actually quite serious. We started it out with everybody having a chance to hear a podcast that was created by AI. And I'll bet you a few people heard that podcast and really thought it was real people. And that's the whole point. I remember when I first saw Google NotebookLM's feature set and put information in it and asked it to generate a podcast, I was shocked by the banter, by the informality, by the humor, by the analogies. I mean, things that we always think there's just no way AI is going to be able to do. So in the setting of that, I thought it would be great for us to just talk about the fear people have, quite frankly, about AI replacing jobs. And we thought it was really important to get Colin Frisch here to talk a little bit about this from a songwriter perspective, given the title of Informatics in the Round. And Harris and I thought it would be great to just have a conversation about this and to bring up some of the issues maybe that we've heard. Maybe there's myths we can debunk, but maybe we're also just going to have to talk about what the issues are so that people know what to be looking for in the literature. So Marylyn, are you hearing anything about this, or have any of these concerns been raised at the University of Pennsylvania or our health system?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had some of the medical students start to ask, like, am I going to have a job? Like, are we going to need doctors once we have AI? If AI can listen to clinical interactions and record clinical interactions and then populate the EHR with exactly what happened, like, what's the point of the doctor anymore? And I've had radiologists say, well, now if AI can identify a tumor or AI can identify a stroke, like, am I going to have a job? And I still think that the answer is yes, that there are going to be a lot of jobs for physicians and radiologists in particular. I'm really excited about the potential that AI will make physician jobs more efficient and nurse jobs more efficient and radiologist jobs maybe even more accurate, because maybe the AI will point things out that the naked eye kind of misses when you're scanning through an image, for example. But I don't think it's going to replace the jobs. And this isn't my quote, but I've heard this said, and I wish I knew who said it first because I keep using it. But in particular in healthcare, I think what we're likely to see is that physicians and nurses using AI will replace physicians and nurses who refuse to use AI. And I think that's what we're more likely to see.
I have talked with Kurt Langlocks, who has assured me that he was the one who said it first.
Okay.
Because why not, right?
I need to attribute it to someone because it wasn't me, but I keep using it.
Yeah, I think it was Kurt Langlocks, who's at Stanford.
No, it was absolutely Abraham Lincoln.
Oh my gosh. That was kind of like, I remember that somebody sent me this wonderful meme that was a quote from Abraham Lincoln saying that we should never trust information we see from the internet.
Yes, exactly. You know the reference. Thank you.
Do. So Colin, what's your thinking about this? You worried about it?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of different directions I could come at this from, but one is just already asking ourselves, like, what does being a professional musician look like right now? What jobs are there to actually take away? And it's right, like for music, we already kind of dealt with this big, terrifying transformation that transformed the way that the industry completely worked with the internet alone. Like the fact that all music is essentially free now, is accessible through streaming, which essentially means most of the time, if people are listening to your music, there's no money in it for the vast majority of people. We have our pop stars, our Ed Sheerans, our Taylor Swifts, who are wonderful and very, very successful. And right now with the system, they make money, not nearly as much as they would back in the day by streaming. I don't think pop stars are in danger of losing their fan bases. I think that a lot of really boring musical work might go away, which I'm not upset about.
So tell me what boring musical work is.
Yeah, so I work for a church. I love doing that, and I get to do a lot of really passionate, wonderful work there, where we make live music, where we worship according to that, right? But part of what I also do as a creative director is I'll make videos for the church, and sometimes in the background of a video, you need some generic music to play while people are talking, while things are going on. Already, there are entire libraries full of just generic, like you can buy it, or there's some that's just what is it common use, or like that's basically not copyrighted, that anyone can use, and it's none of it is that good.
Thank you very much for trashing the music that I used to introduce this podcast, which is
I'm sorry.
right out of
No,
Shutterstock.
no, but it's serviceable. The music that you picked, you listened to it and you said, "Oh yes,
Yeah.
this sounds like the kind of thing that I will kind of set the mood, fill that empty space, and guide the listeners in here."
And just to tell you, just to be truthful, Harris and I listened to a few songs, and we actually didn't love any of them, as you'll recall.
Yeah.
We found a couple that we thought would work. So serviceable is exactly right.
Exactly. And that's okay. Why? Because no one is listening to this wonderful podcast for the intro music, right? If the intro music is bad, it might be a barrier for people to listen to it. But as long as it's serviceable, as long as it hits that, B minus, we're good to go. and here we go. And it would not surprise me, because what I've heard from AI music is that it is very good at getting you a solid product that is predictable, that is serviceable. And so, yeah, like I said, there's a whole industry that I'm not particularly involved in, other than as a consumer, of people who make these generic musical jingles, whatever you want to call them. And I think they're in trouble. I think AI is going to be very good at doing summer groove, number one, good vibes. And you can find that, and you can put that in the background of your movie or whatever you want to do.
Listen, as an avid yacht rock listener, no one can take away my yacht rock playlist.
That's right.
Okay, it's classic.
Yamo be there forever, Harris. Yamo be there.
Marilyn, one of the things that you said, though, I think is really interesting, is that idea of the doctors and nurses who use it aren't going away, but the ones who don't and refuse it will. I think you're spot on about that. And I think about I was listening to this podcast, Informatics in the Round, or maybe it was called Deep Dive. I can't remember. Just listened to it a day ago, I think. And it was talking about, if you don't accept these changes in industries, you're kind of lost without them. Really smart podcasters. I don't know. But I do think that if we have this opportunity to utilize the technology in the appropriate way, it is helpful, and you will be able to go along with it. I was a big Napster fan back in the day. I did steal some music, or Kazaa, whoever is into that flavor. But yeah, I do think it's about, adapt and grow, or don't adapt and get left behind.
Well, see, and this, to me, what Colin said and what Marylyn said are really well aligned with the problems in healthcare, right? Because there's probably a serviceable job in healthcare. People have said, the New York Times wrote a whole piece about this being the end of what are called meaningless jobs. And everybody knows that in life, there's always kind of a normal distribution to things, including skill. So there are people who are in our healthcare systems who are in roles that maybe, I'm going to be careful how I say this because I'll get in trouble, but maybe were designed for them, if you know what I mean. Meaning it was a job they didn't have to create, but they had a person who could do a thing and they decided it was worth doing. There are many, many people who would say if only more physicians could have, assistants to help them with scheduling, to help them with follow-up, to help them with, et cetera, et cetera. And we can't afford that in healthcare, right? Healthcare is a gigantic industry with a very large percentage of people who are actually underpaid for the job they do. And so the idea that we could somehow distribute that in a way that encourages people who are practicing really important jobs that require whatever set of skills humanity uniquely brings to the equation, and then allows the other jobs to be potentially either augmented by or replaced by AI. I think about what's called robotic process automation, which has been around now for a while, Colin. It's the idea that if there's a job that you do the exact same way every single time, you can now train a computer to do it, and that class is over. So And to your point, maybe the whole idea of how to mix is something that people could start the process automatically now. If you think about some of the new tools that are available for photo and video editing, you basically give it a command and it basically does it, which means the skills that you used to have to tweak every little feathering and sound balancing, that stuff's just gone. In healthcare, we probably have a whole gaggle of jobs like that, right, Marilyn?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, things like, well, scheduling was one of the things that you said. I mean,
Mhm.
AI can do much better at scheduling appointments and rooms and optimizing all of those different parameters at the same time. And it's a boring job, right? I mean, it's a job, it's an important job. And until we had AI, it was critical for people to get in to see their doctors and for surgeries to happen. But I don't think people are like, oh, I love answering the phone and plugging names into slots on a calendar. They just do it because it had to be done. But I think the piece that AI won't be able to do, or certainly not anytime soon, is the soft skills and the human interaction piece that many of us look for in healthcare. And then the other is those really unusual situations. I mean, AI is meant for the automation, the simple, the boring, not something that we've never seen before. So I'm in San Francisco for a conference right now, the AMIA meeting, and everybody's been posting all over socials about taking their first ride in Waymos, these
I did that.
self-driving taxis. Did you? I'm going to try today.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
terrified, but I really want to try it. But there was a situation this week where, and I don't know if it was caught on social, so I don't know that somebody here saw it or whether they saw the video, but there were two Waymos at an intersection, like facing each other. And then there was an Amazon delivery truck stopped in the middle of the road and they were delivering something. And then another Waymo pulled up behind one, and then another Waymo pulled up behind the other. And it was like four Waymos, and like they were in gridlock and didn't know what to do. And humans would like wave to one another, go ahead, and like would solve that quickly. But it was like gridlock for minutes while the AI was trying to figure out, what do we do in this situation? We've never seen this happen. So it's those types of things in healthcare. A patient comes in with something that you've never seen before. The AI is not going to know what to do. It's the reasoning and the expertise of the human that will solve that. But the getting them into the room and figuring out how much time things might take, AI could do some of that stuff.
Right. I mean, it's funny that you happen to mention the Waymo. So I also was recently in a Waymo, and I also realized I'm not yet ready to admit that there's no role for human-based, Uber, Lyft drivers. So same exact situation, which was we were rushing to get somewhere. And Waymo is really safe, but it's also very differential, meaning that if you're in a intersection, and forget the four Waymo thing, if you're just in an intersection with a bunch of people who are jerks, it just sits there and lets them do whatever they're doing. So if it will never block cars. Therefore, it'll just sit and watch the light turn red, green, yellow, red, green, yellow. So we spent 10 minutes in an intersection waiting for a driver who was sensitive enough to not take up all the lane room so that the Waymo could get crossed. And it kept putting its blinker on. It kept trying to figure out a way out of where it was. It was aware of what was going on. And that's that moment when I said, okay, if you're in a rush, I'd take the risk that a driver could do a better job and may actually cause an accident. Hopefully not, but could, so that I could get to where I'm trying to go after 10 minutes of sitting in an intersection. Or I want to open a door and just walk, right? And at that moment, you start realizing, no, I don't really want this technology to replace every driver.
You just hit something I was starting to think about a few minutes ago about QA and QC. Like, I think AI could be really good at quality assurance and quality control. And you just said you would rather take the risk. And a lot of times I think people assume that it's more risky to use AI because it's no human intervention. But I actually think it could be the opposite. Humans do allow a lot more risk at times, and we might skip steps knowing, oh, it'll be fine. And so maybe AI will help us kind of bring back some of those quality assurance, quality controls, and make us slow down a little bit more so that we do prevent further errors. Or just decide, oh, it's worth the risk, go a little bit faster and go ahead. I think that that's an interesting area for AI to be used.
Well, so back to, Colin here, is there an example of a place where you would say, we as songwriters or I as a musician take a risk that you could never program AI to do that?
Yes, definitely. I think people who are afraid of AI taking music, they might be misunderstanding the way that they might think about art. I think we a lot of times we obsess with the art object, the product that you get at the end, so the song itself. We all experience music a little bit differently. But for me, one of the main reasons why I love the songs that I love is because I'm invested in where they come from. Like the songwriter is part of the song experience. And for Swifties, for example, like the fact that Taylor Swift wrote it is part of what makes them love it because they understand that it's part of the story of her expressing herself through that. And I guess you could program like you could make a character of an AI, but we like the realness of it. We love vulnerability in music. And one of my favorite comedians, he said this. He said, "If you're not telling secrets on stage, nobody's gonna listen. What are you doing? Like part of what you're supposed to do in your art is say things that you kind of don't want to say, and it's you that feels that doesn't want to do that. And so for me, like when I write, I have to ask myself, like, what is it that I'm ashamed of that I wouldn't want to express? What are my, quote unquote secrets that are difficult for me to say? Because if it's not difficult to say, if there's no surprise, if there's no shock, if I'm just listening to a song and I hear I love her, she loves me, everything's great, unless it has a great beat, that's probably not going to be my favorite song. Versus if I hear a song from and I'm shocked by the sound, it's really interesting and surprising, and then I look into it and there's a compelling story behind the writer too, where I can understand like his quote unquote myth of who he is or who she is. Like that's wonderful. That's what I really get invested in. And since an AI can't feel embarrassed, can't feel ashamed, can't be hesitant to share, a secret. That part of the magic of music that I love, I'm not threatened at all.
Interesting. I don't know. I mean, I do find myself when I'm talking to ChatGPT, I find myself to be very polite. like I'll ask it a question and then it'll give me an answer and I'm like, well, thank you. And I don't find myself doing that same dialogue with, my wife or someone else. Thank you for your information, Crystal.
So that sounds like a personal problem.
I know. I should talk to her about that. We'll go to a therapy session about it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you're, both Harris and Marilyn, you're both in the bioinformatics translational space. Are there secrets? Is there an equivalent scientifically to what Colin just said, which is there's something about either the scientist or the process that we can't really model and that we need to recognize? Like, where's the humanity, if you will, in science?
I mean, I think part of it, especially in the kind of genetics and genomics space, is it still feels like as much an art as it does a science. Like we're still very much discovering and learning how genes function, how they come together in networks and pathways, and how they lead to, disease or drug responses. And this is part of why, people keep saying, like, is AI going to totally change, the discovery landscape in genetics and genomics? And I'm not sure that it will. It might make some of our QA, QC processes, like Harris talked about, much faster because those are pretty structured. But the discovery side, I feel like we're doing a lot of, well, what would happen if we model it this way? Well, what happens if we put these variables together? Well, what happens if we look at the data like that? And the reality is, like, we don't have underlying truths, these complicated models to learn yet. Like AI needs something to learn. We don't have them. There is no ground truth yet. So I think there are still a lot of, I don't know, secrets, art, just a lot of kind of innovation and asking questions about data still to be done. So I think the molecular biologists and bioinformaticians have a job for at least a little while longer.
Yeah, I think that's pretty valid. I mean, there's a ton of ways that we could automate in the lab, even with sequencing and different types of testing. We're currently doing that, but I think the other side of the humanity is wanting someone to understand and validate those differences between us. In the eMERGE network, we're returning polygenic risk scores and monogenic scores in this big report.
You're going to have to explain what those are now. You know that, right?
Yeah. So monogenic tests are ones that are just single genes. So looking at the BRCA gene, for example. Polygenic scores are where you take a number of genes that have a risk for certain diseases. So BRCA1 and 2 and a couple of other genes for breast cancer risk, looking at that and seeing what your score is based off of multiple genes. So we're returning those back, and we could say that, all these risk levels are about the same for this type of population or that type of population. But just as Marylyn said, the more that we start to learn about these individual and population level differences, the more we're realizing there's so much more that we don't know yet. And so, you think about 20 years ago, we were just thinking that genes really were like the binary yes and no's to the way life worked. And now we realize 20 years later, that's not really true. There's a lot of variability. There's a lot of chance that still occurs. There's a lot of other environmental impacts within our genetics and within our lives that could really impact how genes work. So I think those are those nuances that AI really isn't able to detect on its own yet.
And, you were talking about scheduling, Marilyn. And my first thought about the sort of counterfactual there is if you end up with a chronic illness and you have issues with needing to see 4 or 5 physicians, nurses, or other in a day or a week, then a regular scheduling system is optimizing perhaps a different problem than what you might want to have optimized, which is, look, I'm at the hospital today. Can we just get it all done? Yes, I know it's an entire day. Yes, I know I may have to cancel other things, but I also would rather just put my dog in daycare for the whole day than having to do 3 days. Or I'd rather try to just get all of the noxious things done today so that I have the rest of the week to recover. So I imagine that there's a place where we can sort of imagine all of these, and I'll use Colin's word because I like it, secrets, the nuances to how we want to live our lives, or the incremental change that's not exactly logical, but just feels right, that we're not going to be ready, I think, for a while to deal with Waymo and gridlock. You can imagine a solution, but that solution also is going to have its own tax, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's reasons why certain people would want to come in at the lunch hour, or certain people would want to come in first thing in the day or last thing in the day. And it's all those other variables. It's do you have to drop a kid off at school? Do you have to take your parent also to their appointment at the same place? There's a lot of factors that the AI couldn't anticipate. So this gets back to, I hear this phrase a lot, that AI likely won't do a lot of these jobs in isolation, but will be keeping a human in the loop so that a human could kind of intervene with, AI might suggest, here's a way to schedule, but then the human could maybe move things around or say, no, I don't think that would work right. I know that that's happening a lot in the research space as well, that AI is proposing lots of models and then a human can look at them and say, like, that looks plausible, that one doesn't, let me look into this one more. And so that, again, maybe that it's not eliminating jobs, it's maybe almost creating new types of jobs where, like, previously you did something one way, but now you have this kind of technological aid to help do the job. And so the job itself looks a little different than it did in the past. And I think a lot of big technological revolutions have done that, right? Like when the internet came out, it changed a lot of jobs. When electricity came out, it changed a lot of jobs. I feel like AI is kind of one of these big technological revolutions.
Yeah, I wonder what gaps there are that we don't even recognize as a gap that AI could really help us with. Like I think about, doctors who have to send a bunch of messages to a bunch of other doctors to coordinate certain types of care or let people know what's going on with a patient. A lot of times that doesn't necessarily happen because the patient is assuming it's happening and doesn't, coordinate with their own doctors. But maybe there's an area where it could help with communication or coordination of care amongst a number of doctors for one patient. Things like that really right now are just gaps that just, hopefully it happens, maybe it doesn't.
Well, I'll tell you, and Colin, this is a question for you that I'm going to have a little preamble for everybody. So there was a really interesting body of literature emerging in radiology, which goes like this. If AI is very good at reading routine chest x-rays or routine MRIs, which are magnetic resonance imaging studies, such that the role of the radiologist is to take everything that is rejected as a clear read from AI and to read that there is a hypothesis that radiologists will actually get worse at their job because the intensity of the job will so be ratcheted up that they'll never sort of have that mindless period where they can just knock out 20 x-rays while they're getting their first cup of coffee in. So Colin, I wonder about the same thing. If all of the serviceable music is going to AI and all you're being asked to do is really sophisticated, match the music to the moment in church or match the music to a particular cultural phenomenon. Is it possible you get worse as a songwriter because you're not doing the mindless part of the job?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think music already kind of has that problem built into it, which is that most music is not that good. Like the vast majority of music created is mediocre.
Oh, wait, don't mince words. How do you really feel about music?
I love music, and because I love music, I have such strong opinions about music. I am proudly a hater.
Very good.
Yeah, because I love the medium, it makes me have very strong opinions. As far as the music that we elevate and we seek to recreate and that I look to, it's always the exceptional stuff. It's always the wonderful, the sublime that we strive for. But it's really, really hard to make. Maybe because of AI, people will make, it'll have shortcuts. And so I think for people who haven't developed their musicianship, it might be easier to just use AI to get the decent product that they need, the backing tracks that they can sing on top of, instead of them learning to play guitar. And because they never learned to play guitar, there are certain songs that they never learned to write because, the guitar speaks to that in a certain way. Yeah, but I guess we would never know. We don't know the songs that don't get written. There's tons of obstacles to music already that are built in that keep people from maybe writing songs that potentially they would have been able to. And so if you have romantic sensibilities like me, it makes you a little bit sad, but that's part of the art.
But that's a really sage comment. We don't know the songs that never get written. Probably relates to some of the roles that people could imagine AI replacing, right? Because I think the idea is there is a way in which people organize life and work, etc. And these technologies, even if they don't replace us, may in fact change the way life gets created in a way that it actually does change the work that we have relied on them to engage in the past. Am I off base? I mean, can anybody think of any real analogies to this that we've run into or read about?
No, I would just like to point out that it was really Natasha Bedingfield that said, "The best is yet unwritten." And that's a 2000s singer. Just so you know. I could see the puzzlement on your face, Kevin.
Oh, no. Well, I was busy thinking it was poor Colin. You just totally dissed the guy.
No, that is a very popular TikTok song right now, by the way.
Okay, yeah. I just deleted my TikTok.
Yeah, don't think I'm not singing it in my head right now.
That song was also the theme song to the early 2000s show on MTV, Laguna Beach. No, it wasn't Laguna Beach. It was the one that was after that. Okay, I'm sorry.
And it was just in a movie, a
Yeah.
Netflix movie.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of it.
It has come back to being popular.
So all of this now has to go in our liner notes, just to make it clear that you're making there's no way AI can replace you because you're now adding all of this stuff.
The Hills, yes.
Downstream.
The Hills. Sorry. Thank you.
No, the mistakes too. That makes me I was thinking about the AI podcast versus this, and that is such a human interaction to not be able to remember what you're talking about. And it's charming. I love it's so alive. And in the same way, with music, I don't know. Music is different, I think, than healthcare in the fact that like incompetent healthcare is really, really bad and dangerous, and like that the stakes are high. But sometimes being bad at music can make really interesting art. Like bad at the craft of music will end you. The limitations can really help you. Being a bad guitar player might keep you in a box where you write a song where otherwise you wouldn't be able to. Um, not always. That's kind of a romantic idea.
I was just going to. I'll say that you are wrong. That we live in the world where much of healthcare is C minus, but we rely on this model called the reasons Swiss cheese model to make sure that we have checks and balances that make sure that the overall quality of things goes up. I'll be okay leaving that in because I know that it's true.
But in healthcare, you can be popular for having poor healthcare too. I mean, it doesn't make the news all the time when we do, our 1,000th transplant. But if the hospital that you work at were to have a bad score or some, adverse event occur, it's going to make the news. I was thinking about William Hung from American Idol and do y'all remember William Hung?
I do. Yep, I do. So bad he was good.
Yes, he got an album deal. He made an album. He sang the song She Bangs. And it was so bad that he got an album deal out of it. And he was adorable. Let's all admit. I mean, he was cute, but he got a lot of publicity for that.
Well, but your point, the other thing that's really analogous to this, Colin, is how we define good and bad, and therefore how we bias AI to do what we consider to be good may actually be disenfranchising. A good example of that is in our country, most of the money that's going into healthcare goes into tech and into the processes that we consider, sort of economically viable. It does not go into addressing adverse childhood experiences or to things that relate to combating homelessness, food deserts, etc. Whereas if you look at European colleagues, the same amount of GDP, way more of it goes into social and behavioral aspects of healthcare. In this country, I think we might consider those at large to not be good, which means it's possible that our AI would be tuned biasing against those behaviors. That's up to us as a society. But I think the point is, once we start having to make those same decisions, if you're not a good songwriter, if you're a good songwriter, you play piano and guitar so that you can kind of cover the range. That's when you start, as you said, actually creating a different kind of an artificial box, which means people who can't do that, Stevie Wonder plays harmonica. He can write a whole song on a harmonica. So if you can't have that capability, you don't hear the same things that he might hear. So I could see how that could be an issue, right?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said really hits an interesting point. I mean, we've been talking about in informatics and in healthcare, the use of race and ethnicity. How do we appropriately use that into the context of the patient care, but also not in a way that would be detrimental to their healthcare by excluding them or having a different bias that would negatively impact their health. What's interesting to me is that AI could make us kind of force us into conversations that maybe society doesn't want to have about how we train and use it within healthcare or music or any other industry.
Yeah, but this, I think, is where the human aspect is so important to make sure that we're really asking questions about the data that's going into these and making sure that we're not just building models that are biased towards, well, who's been utilizing healthcare, who's been, offering bits of information to go into their health record, who uses one healthcare system, so all their data is in one place, versus who uses different systems, and so their data is all over the place and they have lots of missing data. If we just say, okay, AI, model what's in here, it could be modeling biased data and it could be modeling bad data. I mean, Kevin, your point about not having some of those kind of social and environmental exposures and the social determinants of health, like that's really important data that we have to include. And I think a lot of it's not captured well in health records. We need to have people start to pull it together and piece it with the data to tell AI, model these data with those data. Right now, we're not doing a lot of that. We're trying to,
Yeah.
but it's not there.
AI doesn't know what it doesn't know, right? So if I would ask you both, do you think that AI would have ever been able to figure out that we don't have the reference genome we need for a particular population and therefore we have a bias?
No, I don't think it would.
No, I think it probably, like if you imagine that you took a sample from a human that is from some global population that has not yet been sequenced very much, and then you tried to kind of, one of the steps in doing DNA sequencing is that you align that sequence with the reference genome. And this is mostly for Colin and any listeners who don't know anything about genetics. So you run a sequence of someone, and then in order to assemble it and to read it, you have to align it. So basically you look position by position, how does this align with the reference genome? But if this person comes from a global population that we've never looked at, probably what AI would do is say, this looks like an error, this looks like an error, this region looks like an error. I've never seen anything like this before. It's probably an error. It's not an error. It's just that we've never looked at that particular sequence of bases before. And so you need a human to know, oh, like this is coming from a global population we've never looked at.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That is a really good question. And I agree. I think that that's a great answer, Marilyn. That I think it would either say like, oh, this must be, I don't know, zebrafish or something. It's something else, but it's not what we're used to. I mean, it goes back to what you said. There's just so much that we still don't know, that, we can't program into AI to help navigate it. And I think there goes the human context of it too, which is we have cultural differences. And we have societal differences. Thinking about music, there's some cultures that clap on the 2 and 4 beats, and then there's some cultures that clap on the 1 and 3. And Harry Connick Jr. is going to play the piano and switch it and make it so the crowd's clapping on the right beat.
I love that.
Yeah, so I think that those elements just can't be programmed, because again, they don't really follow standards that we can program into AI yet. Could we get there? Yeah, but I don't think that we're there yet.
So let's play 2 games. Let's each talk about something that we think makes us uniquely human. And we'll just do 1 round of this. So I'll start and say, we are adaptive, which means we can be in a situation we've never seen before and become comfortable in it very quickly. Anybody else want to take a stab at this?
We are vulnerable, and we will share our secrets and talk about the secrets of other people.
Colin's.
Sorry.
You can see on his face.
To try to solve problems and figure
Sorry,
out
Marilyn, go ahead.
new solutions.
Colin, what about you?
So for me, I'd say that we're unpredictable. And what I mean by that is there's this great quote by C.S. Lewis. He writes it in this book called The Grief Observed, where he's talking about the death of his wife. And he has all of these letters that she would write him. He has all these memories of her. It's not like she's completely gone. But he says part of what's so difficult and what he grieves in losing her is that he's never surprised by her anymore. Because one of the wonderful things about being a human being is we have this ability to act outside of our own character, at least as far as everyone else would expect, and do something that we didn't realize that we would do or other people didn't realize that we would do.
Oh, that's fancy. Harris, what about you?
I think we contain fear. Fear is a very interesting emotion to have because it really drives so much of what we do. And it either drives us to do things or not do things. And I think fear is similar, but not the same as risk. And I think that we can program AI to understand and utilize risk, or maybe we will eventually. But I don't think that we could program AI to have and understand and make decisions based off of fear.
That's really good. And this is great because what we're doing is we are rationalizing why human in the loop or augmented approaches are going to be really useful. So in places where people don't want those behaviors, theoretically, you might imagine that AI has an advantage. But in places where you really have to capitalize on that, AI may not. So I know we're getting short on time. And we have a little game we want to play. And I was going to just ask Colin to do this, but I think I'm going to ask all of us to do this. So I have a set of questions here, 12 to be exact. Thank you, Ellie. And the game is called AI or Taylor Swift. And since we've all brought up Taylor Swift at least once, and my daughter will be ecstatic that we're bringing up Taylor Swift, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, here's a lyric. Tell me whether it's AI generated or not. So as a starting point, Colin, since I know you're great at this, I'll just give you number 12 first, because I think that's a super easy one. The player's going to play.
Taylor Swift?
Exactly. Which album?
Oh, I think that's 1989?
Yes. Awesome. Extra credit. I'm not even going to try that particular thing. And of course, I can't play because I'm looking at the questions here. Okay, Harris, you ready for one?
Yep.
Did we build a house of cards destined to fall instead?
Not Taylor.
AI. You didn't say that, but I'm going to give it to you because you said you didn't say not. So that's it. Okay. Let's see here.
That one, I'm impressed.
Marilyn, how about, I've got a question here, AI or Taylor Swift, and it is, I'll stare directly at the sun, but never in the mirror.
I think that is Taylor.
It is Taylor from Midnight's 2022. I actually love that song. Now I'm hearing it in my head. It's got a great riff. Okay, let's see. Colin, I'm the queen of sandcastles he destroys.
That's AI.
That is not. That's from Tortured Poets Department.
No.
My boy only breaks his favorite toy.
Oh.
There it is. It's happening. Okay, Harris. Forever is never long, but with you it feels like home.
AI.
AI it is. Kind of 2 for 2. This is really good.
Yeah.
Okay, Marilyn. He said my love was a hurricane, but honey, I'm in the eye of the storm.
Oh, that's Taylor.
That is AI.
What?
Oh.
Well, it's someone's song because I've heard that line before.
So what you're saying is now AI is officially plagiarizing.
I think so.
It comes from somewhere.
That's funny. We'll have to search for that one online and see if it's true. Okay, let's see. Who's up? Colin, are you up or is it Harris?
I think it's my turn, yeah.
Okay, Colin. 2 young hearts in a small town haze. You gave me that grin and I knew right away.
I'm going to say Taylor.
AI.
No.
Ooh, man.
I'm suffering here. No.
Okay. Harris, bring it home. Here we go. Ready? But all I felt was shame, and you held my lifeless frame.
That is Taylor.
That is Taylor, all too well.
Yep.
Okay. One more round. Okay, Marilyn. But all I saw was you, lost in your favorite books. Hush.
I think that's AI.
It is AI. Nothing rhymes with hush. That would be a hard
That's what
word
I
to
was
end.
like. That sounds not like something she would write.
I was going to say, that made me think it was more likely to be her because it didn't fit the normal pattern. Like, it seemed more human to have that hush there.
Oh, I see.
I've been tricked.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's good. All right. Okay, here's our last one. I'm going to choose this one. But time moves faster, a thief in the night, stealing away moments, dimming the lights.
I think AI.
What do you think, Colin?
I'll split it so somebody's right. I'll say Taylor.
There you go. Marilyn, what do you think?
I think Taylor.
It is, in fact, AI.
No.
I'm the official Swiftie here.
Yeah, really. Did you get any wrong?
No.
Jeez,
My wife, Crystal, listens to Taylor Swift so much that she, Spotify has your soundtrack for the decade.
Yeah.
And she changed my entire decade of my Spotify playlist because she listens to Taylor Swift on it so much.
Wow.
So all of we got together in 2016. She started using it in 2017. So from 2010 to 2017 did not matter because of how much she listened to Taylor Swift.
I have to say, I love Taylor Swift too. I only admit that occasionally. And I loved her last tour. Iris is just amazing. But the song, I Forgot That You Existed, is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's just And it's to the point you actually made, Colin, which is, you know, the message that's in that song. And there's so many messages in that song that you know it's Taylor and it's a part of her life journey. And I think you're absolutely right. I think all of our fields have to recognize, what are we bringing to that work that reflects us as humans or as a particular person? And maybe that's one of the messages that, you know, Marylyn, when you have to get in front of the entire University of Penn or Penn Medicine to talk about this, you need to say, if you think you can be replaced by AI, you probably can be.
That's good. You're going to steal that, Kevin.
Take it. It's all yours.
And then just drop the mic.
And I'm done.
Wow.
Yeah,
right.
That in the song.
Peace.
Yeah.
So, Collins, we're getting ready to sign off here. Is there a song that you've written that you know you want to give us to play at the end?
Yeah, I have a song called "Ruin Your Heart."
I forgot that you existed. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, a little fairly known track called it. No, a song called "Ruin Your Heart," which I think really captures that idea of, you know, saying some things that you're like sharing secrets, sharing things that you're a little bit of ashamed of, but that's a gift that you can give people, that a human gift. Yeah.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah. Really.
All right.
I hope you guys
So
like
now,
it.
you know what's going to happen is we're going to play it. Is it out? Like, is it available on?
Oh yeah, you can find it on everywhere. Hopefully.
Okay. Well, send us the MP3, and Ed Sheeran, if you're listening, and you edit and you modify this,
I didn't mean
give
it,
this
Ed
dude
Sheeran.
some credit.
I'm sorry. You're very handsome.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. This was great, and hopefully we can do it again. So, what did you think? Did we make a better podcast than AI?
I don't know. I mean, you do
Come
sound
on.
you do sound pretty close to AI, but I think I can tell between AI Kevin and real Kevin.
We should have nicknames that are like our AI. You know, with the world of avatars, we should each make like there should be some kind of really starchy, abrupt set of syllables that are actually like KE then or something.
Yeah, I was you know how like it adds extra fingers? You could add an extra E in your name, so it could be Kevin.
There it is. So then what would Harris be? Harass?
Yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah,
Harris.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Anyway, thanks for listening to this episode. It was really excellent, and I really think that Colin added a ton to it. So I was excited that he was able to be there. He's a really thoughtful guy.
Yeah. And I think, you know, often people don't really think about a lot of overlap in the issues in like music and the music industry, but really like when you think about especially copyright and user interfaces and, you know, just being able to digest all this information, there are a lot of overlaps in the music industry and in healthcare.
And for listeners, they don't know how much time you and I spend like trying to coax things out sometimes with the guests. But what was amazing is he just like stepped totally right up. So Colin, if you're listening to this, know you're going to be on some more podcasts.
Yes. Yeah. Him or Ed Sheeran, that is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Good luck with that one. You call Ed and we'll have a special episode any day.
Yeah. We can let those two riff off.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be great. Okay. So anyway, thanks for listening. To hear about more episodes or new releases, find us on social media at Info in the Round, which is INFOINTHERND on X, at least for now, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok.
And if you have any questions or ideas for things you want to hear about for our new episodes, message us on any of these platforms or email us at informaticsintheround@gmail.com.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Days were numbered, and all it took was one word. 2 hands and a bloody nose, and let's start the show. Didn't take me long playing all the pretty songs, saying, don't make me sing this alone. I'm an actor, make me matter, so nothing get your hopes up. I'm gonna find the sweetest words you ever heard and make you smile at me so much that it hurts. I wanna shine so bright I'll make your world blur. Be your favorite part and ruin your heart. And ruin your heart. And ruin your heart. I knew from the start I wanna ruin your heart. Day one, I knew our days were numbered, and every night it thundered. Stole the band and the cop